So we're talking with Martha McSally, and she's our latest and probably best known Senate candidate from Arizona. And why don't you just start with why you want to run?
Well, for those that don't know me, I've served in the military for 26 years and left home at 18 to go to the Air Force Academy. And I was really fortunate. I was an A-10 Warthog pilot, first woman to fly in combat in U.S. history, and first to command a fighter squadron in combat. So I've got 325 combat hours, deployed 6 times to the Middle East, ran counterterrorism operations in Africa, retired as a full colonel. And I've been in Congress now for just a few years. One of our part of our culture in the military is you can't complain about something without being willing to do something about it. And I felt this call to duty just rising up inside me as I was feeling very frustrated of what's going on in Washington, D.C., and just feeling that they need more veterans and people who have a heart of service like myself to make a difference and serve our communities and have a mindfulness of service first and getting things done. So I've been there for 3 years. I've been getting a lot of things done. I represent southeastern Arizona. I actually was rated the 9th most effective member of Congress in my freshman term against all 435. So if you just look at my record, I've served, I've sacrificed, I've made a difference. I actually stood up against the Pentagon when they were making our servicewomen wear burqas in Saudi Arabia. It's a really long story. You can Google the 60 Minutes and other interviews. But I've shown in my life that I'm willing to stand up for what's right and fight for what's right tirelessly until we get it done. And so here we are now. We have an open Senate seat. Didn't expect to be here. I was planning to continue to represent my district in the House. But there is so much at stake right now. And for the country and for our state, I just felt the call to duty to step up and say I need to serve in this new capacity. The balance of the Senate could be at stake with this race. So much of what we're trying to do in order to make sure our military is supported, our veterans are supported, our border is secure, that people can meet their full potential, people can graduate and get good jobs and do anything they want in their life and live the American dream, and that we are safe and secure. Those are the things that I focus on, and I'm excited to be given the opportunity to serve in the Senate if I'm elected.
So as you know, the representative for this area is Paul Gosar, and I imagine you've worked quite a bit with him, and he's pretty popular in Prescott, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about some of the bills that you have worked together with Paul on?
So we work on a lot of public lands issues. He's the head of the Western Caucus now, and I'm in the Western Caucus, and so I'd have to go back and look at the exact bills, but we often, as a delegation, there's strength in numbers as we see there's commonality across our districts related to issues of public lands that are related to all our districts and rural areas, border security areas. So we've worked together on a lot of issues that really cross both of our districts. Again, we'll have to go back and look at the exact bill numbers, but there's a lot of common ground, especially representing our rural areas and some of the themes that we have related to resources and water and border security.
And in the Senate, of course, Senator McCain has been on the Security Advisory or the
Armed
National
Services
Security
Committee, yeah.
And we're pretty fond of veterans in our
Yeah.
communities too. And so is that one of the areas that you're going to want to focus on is, for the veterans and the armed services?
Absolutely. That's what I have been focusing on. I'm the only female veteran in the GOP in the House. There's very few of us who have served in Congress. It's really the lowest number in a long time. And I think it's so important that people who are veterans are at the table helping to make decisions related to our military and support for our veterans. So I have been tirelessly advocating for our troops that are active duty. I've got some really big wins since I've been there in stopping the bleeding and the atrophying that's been going on with the cuts and turning that around. I've had some very specific wins of keeping the A-10 Warthog flying, which is the airplane I flew, and I commanded an A-10 squadron. Went from the last administration saying they were going to completely get rid of it to getting it fully funded in the House, and again working with Senator McCain in the Senate on these issues, but in the House really leading the effort on this, advocating for it. And now we just got news today, it's being deployed to Afghanistan. It's stationed in the DMZ in South Korea. It's deployed often to Europe to help our partners there that are dealing with NATO aggression. It's in the fight against ISIS. And so this is a crucial asset that is one of a kind. And I've got the credibility, having flown it and commanded a squadron, to fight to save it. And I was able to keep it in the inventory. And now we're fighting right now this year to have some additional funds to re-strengthen the wings, on the remaining A-10s in the inventory so that they can keep flying. So that's just one example. When it comes to supporting veterans after they've served, again, being one of them, I know some of the challenges that our veterans have. Every person is different, across their experiences, their services, their combat experiences. Look, we have a covenant with our veterans that they're going to go put their lives on the line to keep us safe, and that we're going to take care of them and their families when they come home. And that's transitioning to civilian life. It's the medical care that they need. It's the mental health care that they need because of the horrors of war that they've experienced. Providing opportunity. I just was touring Embry-Riddle today and speaking to some of the vets there. They're everything from some of the younger ones to, retired Navy SEAL, here in the community, continuing their education. So strengthening the support that we have for them so that they can continue to make a difference in the world and in our country in an amazing way, whether they serve, they started a new business or they're serving as an employee or whatever it is they want to do, run for office, that they are continuing to serve with the core values that they have and get the support that they need. And so as a veteran myself, it's something that I've been fighting and leading on, and I will continue to in the Senate.
So right now it seems like Washington's a bit dysfunctional. You just walked away from a shutdown. It was short-lived, but it was still a shutdown. And what do you see needs to be done? And I know the DACA issue is important to a lot of people, but is that fair to tie that to budgets and the funding for the rest of the country?
First of all, that was absolutely reckless. The Schumer shutdown, the cinema shutdown, whatever you want to call it, it was absolutely reckless. And look, people are busy living their lives, and this is one of the reasons why I was yelling at the television, which why I decided to run in the first place. Like, what are those people doing in Washington, D.C.? And so, I'm not going to walk by a problem. I'm going to be a leader and try and fix it. This particular issue, for those who are living their busy lives, we had come to an agreement to fund the government, to fund our military, and to fund a health insurance program for 9 million kids. And there was nothing in that bill that the Democrats disagreed with. There was nothing that they were against. Yet they decided to shut the government down over an unrelated issue that didn't have a deadline until March 5th or later. This is insane. People have a lot of issues they want to work on, but you don't hold our military hostage and have them in harm's way, not getting paid if the shutdown continued, having people furloughed in our communities, and the ripple effect that has of other contractors trying to plan and people trying to pay their bills. Like, this was absolutely reckless and unnecessary, and they realized it. I was a pilot, use the analogies of flying all the time. So, they flew into a boxed canyon, which means you can't turn around, you can't get out, and they didn't know what they were going to do. So they're just going to crash. And in the end, after 3 days, they had basically such an uprising within their own ranks of like, we are not going to tolerate this anymore, that they had to do this face-saving maneuver of voting for the same exact bill only 8 days earlier, and somehow they're trying to spin it like they got something out of it. The whole thing was a blunderous miscalculation politically by Chuck Schumer and his foot soldiers, and it was just awful. And I think the American people really recognized it quickly. So let's talk about, we have to address issues related to DACA, but again, the deadline was not imminent. And as I've been leading on the efforts in order to identify what we can do that addresses the real priorities that we have of securing our border and making sure that we're closing the loopholes in our security system that the cartels are taking advantage of. And I think most people might be willing to do something legislatively about the DACA population that is in a very unique situation, but they want to make sure that we don't have another DACA population in another 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years, right? Or next month, because normally, as soon as you basically legalize somebody who is here legally, then what it does is it incentivizes additional illegal activity. And if we don't secure a border, then we're going to have the same problem coming and very quickly because of communication being so easy these days with social media and other things. So we've got to address these root issues. I have a bill that I introduced with some colleagues that we believe addresses really the root causes of DACA, our highest security concerns related to border security, sanctuary cities, and some other things, ending chain migration, ending the visa lottery system, starting to move us towards a merit-based system, and providing a legal status for DACA recipients, but not having them have a special path to citizenship where they would actually go ahead of people who have been waiting sometimes for decades who have come here legally. So we think it's the right balance for the negotiations. We've got over 75 co-sponsors on the Republican side now, and we really would invite the Democrats to sit down with us and try and find some common ground. I think the places where we could agree is we've got to do something that addresses the highest priorities of the American people in border security and addressing the root causes of why we have so many people here illegally in the first place.
You were, I believe, the first of the Arizona delegation to say as long as the government was shut down that you were not going to accept your pay as a congresswoman.
Well, I sponsored a bill Friday afternoon in anticipation of the potential shutdown that said the military gets paid, our Border Patrol agents get paid, anyone who Department of Homeland Security says is a national security important position gets paid, and members of Congress don't get paid. So that's the first thing I did, was I just think it's ridiculous that they were playing politics with our troops and their families and our Border Patrol agents and others that are out there to keep us safe while they were getting their own pay. And even though I voted yes, I didn't shut down the government, I just wanted to force their hand. And then I took the next step to say withhold my pay during the shutdown because I just thought it was inappropriate. So that's the right thing to do.
So you're a little bit mellow about some of these issues. But,
a little passionate.
What are some of the other issues that you think are really important as far as some of these core conservative issues? Pro-life.
Yep.
Balanced budget, that sort of thing. Why don't you go ahead and talk about
Absolutely. Well, I'm a tireless defender of the Second Amendment. I've probably shot one of the biggest guns of anybody in Congress in the 30 millimeter on the A-10. And our right to be able to defend ourselves is critical. I believe in the right to life. I'm pro-life. I've got a strong record in that regard. I believe that not everything is the federal government's responsibility. As conservatives, we want to be shrinking government. I'm reading again The Conscience of a Conservative by Barry Goldwater. I think it's a really good sort of founding document to remind ourselves of the core principles of the conservative movement of we need to move power out of Washington, D.C., out of the bureaucratic hands and back to where it belongs per the Constitution, state and local government, if it's government at all. If not, back to the people where the power belongs. And so we've got to shrink the size of federal government. We've got to roll back the burdensome regulations that the last administration especially has overreached and really has been stifling economic opportunity, economic growth across the board in every way and oftentimes unconstitutionally overreaching. We already passed historical tax cuts. I believe as a conservative, more money needs to be in your pocketbook and in your wallet instead of sending it to Washington, D.C. And people are going to make better choices with their money if it's theirs. And they can actually do what they want for saving for college or saving up for a car or buying a house or saving for retirement. That's going to be what actually spurs economic growth and opportunities for the next generation. And so these basic fundamental principles that we have as conservatives of believing in a free society and equal opportunity and set the playing field so people can thrive and meet their full potential, but having limited government plus a strong defense and believing in those other things of the Second Amendment, right to life and all those things. Those are the core fundamentals of what we all believe, and I've got a strong record on all of those.
What would you like to add? I know you have another appointment here pretty quick, so what would you like to add and just tell the people of Yavapai County and Prescott in particular?
Well, it's great to be up here again. I hope you can see by me being here twice in less than 10 days that this region is very important to me. I'm going to be tirelessly working throughout this campaign to listen to you and also hope that you can take a fresh look at who I am. If you don't know who I am, look at my background. I've had a life of service to our country. 26 years in uniform. I've put my life on the line for our country. I put my career on the line for our religious freedoms and for the freedoms of being treated correctly and rightly. Look at that story about standing up against Islamic fundamentalism and Sharia law and making our female servicewomen wear burqas. It took me 8 years, but I won that battle and got a law passed in Congress to overturn it when I was a civilian. So if you look at what I've done with my life, and then you look at what I've done in my time in Washington, D.C., I can't stand that place. I look at it like it's the place I deploy right now in order to fight the fights that matter to us, in order to make a difference and continue my service in civilian clothes. And I've been effective since I've been there on the things that I've been able to get done, legislation I've been able to get passed, and being a key leader on the issues of the day, whether it's repealing and replacing Obamacare, our historic tax reform, and now working on border security and changes that need to happen in immigration. I'm not a bystander. I take the bull by the horns, and I'm going to run and be a leader on these issues. And so I just ask you to take a fresh look. This campaign and this seat is going to be so important. The balance of the Senate could be at play depending on how what happens with this seat. So I really believe I have what it takes in order to be able to win this general election. And it's going to be a long fight, and we've got to be able to do it together. But take a fresh look at my background, and I would be really honored to have you vote.
Okay, thank you very much.